IVM.
I would say that in the last 10-15 years, starting with Anurag, a lot of writing work has been influenced. A lot of writers are coming from the South. There is definitely, if you look at the screenwriting pattern in Tamil or Malayalam, it's very different from how it is in Hindi. So to me, Andhadhun was Hindi cinema's first Malayalam film.
Welcome to the Filter Koffee podcast. Today on our show, I have with me a very dear friend who I met many years back when he was working in the US after being a film student on multiple TV shows in the US, including Celebrity Poker Showdown. And then someone who then had a long career as an editor. He's cut multiple films, including, I think, Dobigat was the most famous one. And today he is one of the few technicians who's moved on from the function of creating a film into the business of film itself. He works with a leading studio, and he's one of the guys who makes the decision on whether a script makes it into the theatre or not. So today I want to speak to Nishant Radhakrishnan about the journey of a film, from it being written as a script to it being seen by us in theatre, it getting a release. And I also want to talk to him about a question that's been bothering me for a fairly long time, which is, why do filmmakers and studios do not use data? Welcome to the show, Nishant.
Hi.
Hey, so Nishant, we are at the end of a season where, at least in Hindi, we've had many different kind of films release over the last few weeks, right?
Yeah.
I personally thought Badai Ho was an extremely interesting product. Before that, we had films like Stree, etc. So many of the films which are very independent in nature, smaller in budget relatively, I'm assuming, seems to have done very well. You know better, right? And then you have these other films, larger films, which have not done as well, at least in the public's eye.
It hasn't done well. Those haven't done in terms of business also.
Right. Yeah. That's something I want to hear from you more. But a film like Thugs of Hindostan, which has largely got a thumbs down across the board, has also happened, right? So to me, and to many other people, it begs the question: why would, so for example, if this were to happen in any other industry, right, for as long as it happens, like for example, my product is not selling for like 5-6 years, I'm not sure which one sells, which one doesn't, I'll always rely on data and research and sort of make sure that doesn't happen that often, right? Is cinema an industry that does that? Why would you otherwise spend millions purely on intuition?
First of all, I will put up a red flag for your use of the word product.
Right.
When you said Badai Ho is a product, Badai Ho is not a product, it's a film, okay? And it's a film which is made for an audience which is coming into the theatre to enjoy themselves. So, yeah, so therefore, corollary to that is that we don't think of data as... data for me is irrelevant. And actually, what do you mean by data?
If I'm looking at audience over a period of time... I'm just taking a leaf out of advertising, right? Or for that matter, marketing, right? Over a period of time, I have data on what has worked, what has not worked, where the taste of the audience is going, what is likely to work, who is likely to work, so on and so forth. I don't even know. Do you guys use data at any point?
No. Data, if at all, is thought of only at the very end stage, where we might use focus groups to assess whether the film is working or not. Now, in Hollywood, I think they use it more frequently. Over here, we still don't know how to use data from focus groups. See,
for the benefit of someone listening to this, can you explain this whole focus group thing? What do you do it for?
I will come to that. So first, I'll talk about how we just want to listen to screenplays and stories instinctively, and whether we respond to it emotionally or not. So as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I think a lot of us who are in the industry, when you hear a story, if you emotionally connect with it, I know at least one one person who I know who will greenlight a film if he cries at the end of the
listen to the
narration.
script.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's a good benchmark because film, I mean, the idea is that the audience should feel something at the end
That means he only makes drama.
No, what I mean is, if it touches him.
Chale that.
So
Okay.
if he's like, if it's a comedy, then he has to laugh and not like that. It's like
Okay.
a LOL sort of laughter. Because film is a community experience. You want to you're sitting in an audience with hundreds of people.
Right.
I remember I saw Sonu Ke Tittu Ki Sweetie.
Yes.
Okay? A film I really like.
We should do a separate episode on how films are named, but we'll get to that now. We'll go on.
Did you watch the film?
No.
Well, it is Sonu Ke Tittu Ki Sweetie. It's a very appropriate name for the film. So, in that film, I'll give an example. So, I was sitting in the audience and there were two guys who were sitting right next to me. 100% they had seen the film before. At least one of them had seen the film before. And he was saying, Arey, abhi dekh kya bol raha hai? Ab dekh kya bol raha hai? It was like a totally physical experience. It's not an intellectual experience. It's a completely physical feeling related experience. So when we listen to stories, like today, for instance, I read a screenplay, which is completely blown my mind. I'm just totally touched by it. I mean, right now I'm talking about it and thinking about it. I have goose flesh. That means that's a green light movie for me, man. I mean, what are movies? Movies are memories. Movies are things that you take away. Movies are what you talk about to people. It's a story, right? And we are today, I mean, we know that we're living in the age of storytelling. Everything is a story today. Even WhatsApp forwards are stories, right? So, the studio system, which started in India, say about 10, 15 years ago, they came in basically to clean up a system which was more or less unorganized.
So what was it before the studios?
Before the studios, individual producers.
Rich people with an inclination to cinema?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, people who were in the industry for years before this. I mean, so they also had their own studios, like Yash Raj is a studio, B.R. Chopra is a studio. But they're all family-owned companies, and individuals there would decide, I want to make this movie or not. Okay. So, therefore, the chance of nepotism was higher. Now, with studios coming in, it allows more people to express themselves, and there is sort of a system. So, I would, in my opinion, it is the early days for the studio system in India. It is fairly bureaucratic. Wait,
hang on. You're saying it's early days for the studio system in India?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When compared to, for example, Hollywood?
Yes, I would say that actually.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Because we are still figuring out. I mean, there have been elements of corruption in how films have been selected. And, see, I don't believe this. There is a general perception that good movies should be made. Okay. So, why? It is the choice of the person who's putting in the money, and it reflects that person's taste. So to me, if somebody like me is there, I will make movies that reflect my taste, and it's ultimately subjective. Correct. So one thing I can tell you is that commercial cinema in India has changed dramatically definitely in the last 5-6 years, but movie tastes were defined by 6 to 7 studio families over many, many, many years. So the Kapoor family, the Chopras, the two Chopra families, the Suraj Barjatia, the Barjatia family. So a lot of the films that were made from zero, which is 1946, 47,
till zero,
till now, yeah, till zero, yeah, 2000, were more or less defined by those individual tastes. Okay, when we had independent filmmakers doing mainstream, like Anurag Kashyap, for instance, who came in and broke the idea that films have to be made in a particular way, in a particular sort of classical style or whatever. That's when the opportunity for more kinds of films happened to come in play. So I would say that, okay.
So what did he do differently?
He brought in cinema that is his own sort of voice.
Is it also not true that he sort of took a product which was fundamentally very Indian?
Don't say product.
he took a film, or rather he took an industry which was fundamentally very Indian, like the way we treated songs and lip syncs, etc., and then made it something that is more European or something else.
I would say that's
isn't that?
I would say that's a reductive point of view,
okay,
in a way, because ultimately it's like he's an artist, and I mean there are artists who want to say things that they experienced. So as opposed to making something that is that you think the audience likes, you make something that you want to say something about. I mean, about your own life and the things that affected you in your life. So a film like Devdi, Gulal, these are films that had their. I mean, they were made in a different way before, but I would say that post 2000, these films were made more honestly and reflecting a truer sort of. I mean, reflecting an India of the 2000s.
Right.
You know?
So we were talking about the data that you use, right? In that, and then you mentioned somewhere that you use focus groups today. How old is this tradition or is this practice? Have you always been using focus groups in the studio era?
So actually, the person who's most famously known to use focus groups is Amir Khan.
Okay.
And since the time that I have worked with him, I have been extremely impressed with the way that he responds to focus groups. It's very honest.
So what happens in a focus group? How does it work?
Good question, actually. Yeah. So there, I mean, I'm talking about the focus groups that I have seen. All right. So usually the first bunch of people who watches your film, other than you and your crew and all of those people, are people you know and trust. So say a bunch of friends.
So the focus group pretty much happens after the film has been cut.
After the film has been cut, but there's still the potential for the film to be recut.
Okay.
Yes, very much so. So it happens in a kind of like a. It happens in the studio, but it happens with about 20-25 people. They watch the film, and after the film is seen, there is a question answer session. It's very casual. It's not very formal. It's not like you have a page, rate the film from 1 to 5. None of that stuff. It's just what you felt, what you thought. And usually, if it's friends and family first screening, they're very honest. And especially if they've seen it, if they've seen enough films before this with you in focus group sessions, they'll be direct and honest with you. So you can trust them. Focus groups are not about knowing whether you made a good film or not. Focus groups is to understand whether your story is working or not.
But hang on, friends and family who've seen you probably sell a house and then invest all your money in it and know that if this film doesn't work, you're probably going to be destroyed, will be honest with you in a focus group?
Correct. No, they will be honest. They should be honest with you, right? Because ultimately only the audience is going to respond to it. So it's best that you share it with people who you think will be able to see. They're not telling you how to make your movie. They're just telling you what they felt. Okay. So this is the thing. I have seen focus groups where there are suggestions. Oh, you should do this or you should do that. The audience member the focus group member may not be the person to be the best judge of what can be done to correct something, because the craft of movie making is different from the craft of movie watching, right? So, for instance, I can tell you, Gajni was a film that I worked on. Okay, so have you seen the Hindi version of Gajni?
So, for the benefit of the listener, you were part of the editing team.
That's right. Gajni, right? That's right. Yeah. So we did, I think, 92 screenings of. Focus group screenings of Gajni.
Wow.
Yeah. Very small groups. It was fun. It was awesome, actually. It was mind blowing. It was like a cinema education for me. So, I'll give you an example. Have you seen the film?
Gajni.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if you remember the film.
In multiple languages.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you remember the film, the first part of the film is rather dark, where it's this character is committed a murder. He's committed a murder already. Right? Yeah, he commits a murder, and it's he goes back to his house, and it's all very dark, and very chilling. And then after that, I think it's a flashback sequence with the Asin character, who's happy. She's a model, all of that stuff, right? So we had a screening of that film. So in the interim between the current dark sequence and the flashback sequence, there is a song. Okay, so that song was a very. It was not a very good song. But it was a entertaining, fun dance kind of number, typical introductory kind of masala number. So when people saw it in the first screening, they had some reaction to the song. They didn't like the song or something. They didn't, mujhe gana maza nahi aaya, aisa kuch hua. So then we removed the song for the second screening. It was a very, very stark response from the audience to the second screening. The second screening, the audience could not watch the after the dark part was over, then the flashback started, no? They were still in a dark mood throughout. Okay, and they found the film to be very, very sad and tragic and dark and all that. So we realized that removing the song was a problem. However, that's
amazing. This is the Mehka song. Right?
No. It was some other song. I forgot the name of the song. It was an Asin introduction song, like, I'm this model girl, whatever. Right? So what we found is that because of the song was like an entry. Hey, now you're watching a commercial film. Chill, relax, sit back.
Right.
Because its song was not there, the mood of the audience, there was not enough time for transition.
So it's very Pavlovian, no?
It was really amazing, man. I mean, I didn't even realize that. So that's what I'm saying. Every time you do a movie and every time you edit and you show to a focus group or whatever, every time the reaction is, there are things in the movie that you have no, you think you have control, but the audience interprets what they want to interpret every time. Right? So you don't realize what you did. And then the audience says, there was that, I felt that he gave her that look. And that look was something. We never even thought of that look as having something. I mean, you're a movie buff. You know how you see deeper and deeper meaning every time you watch a film. So it's like that. I mean, it was really amazing how that turned out for us.
So that today remains the biggest rational part of filmmaking. So
what do you mean?
To say the focus group. That's your biggest data
rational
point?
Part.
Yeah.
Data point. Yeah. Good. You're throwing that back at me. Well, is it rational? We don't know, because there are so many films which have done very badly on focus groups and have done very well outside.
Really?
Yeah. Of course. Even Hollywood. I mean, there are so many films which test very. I mean, they call them test screenings, right? So, yeah, you can say it's at least a rational part of the process. Yes.
But you spoke about how the studio piece is now matured in India, or maturing in India, and how this is very different from how things were 5-6 years back, right? See, one of the bigger changes that has also happened in these 5-6 years is the advent of OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon, etc. Right?
Yeah.
I was recently reading an article about how House of Cards essentially was just data science in the front before it became a script, right? So in the sense, so they realized that given what people are watching or have watched, political thrillers, I might be wrong from the article, but political thrillers as a genre works. And then they were thinking that, I think another data point suggested that Kevin Spacey as a leading actor works. So they put multiple things together, and then that eventually led to, David Fincher writing what he wrote, right?
Okay.
So there are a lot of inputs into the creative process itself, right?
Sure.
And it's interesting. The other day, I just found out that do you know how many genres there are or sub-genres there are in Netflix?
No.
Take a wild guess.
130?
I'll allow you one more guess.
215.
Okay, so it's the last I checked, it was somewhere from 87,000 to 90,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, you can do this thing. You can go to genres and then pick a genre, and then on the URL you'll have a number, and then
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change
whatever that number is. It could be 3,453 if you've chosen something, and then you keep changing that number from anywhere from 1 to 87,000. You'll get a different genre and different set of films.
Okay.
So superb. So essentially today you're not just you're today with the studio, right? You're working with the studio. You're making a decision on what needs to be made, what has to be made into a film, etc. Right? You're also competing not just with other studios, but the Netflixes and the Amazons of the world. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Is this sparking any kind of a change in how the system works in movie studios?
Well, now we can make more kinds of films. As you said, more 87,000 genres. Yeah, so we can make more kinds of films. So we are okay. What we do is we get people to send us screenplays and stories. Then, first of all, they have to be technically good, solid, right? The screenplay, this is a good screenplay. It's a 3-act structure. It's got the right ups and downs. It makes me feel emotional.
It makes you cry.
Makes you cry, laugh, whatever. Yeah, all of that. And then the question is, why should this film be made today? Why should this series be made today? So one barometer, for instance, is, I
remember one conversation you and I had earlier where you said both the why and today are equally important.
Equally important, right. Absolutely. So what is the resonance with the zeitgeist, and how does it shape what is this particular nuance that connects to the zeitgeist today?
But the zeitgeist is in your head.
It's in your, or it's not. Yeah, so it's not a data point, but it's certainly something that we observe around us. I think probably in advertising and in television, I think television uses a lot of research, right?
Well, if you're watching Hindi GC, you wouldn't agree with me. But yeah, I think it uses some level of research.
Yeah, yes. I've worked very little in television, but from what I understand, they go to the small towns and they have some research papers. They do some conversation about that with those people, and they come back and this is the data. ऐसा भी film बनाना होगा, ऐसा भी series बनाना होगा. So what we try to do is understand. Okay, is this cinema material? Is this web material? Is this is this geo material or is this Netflix material? There are elements of censorship. There are elements of understanding. I mean, we need to consider whether this audience is waiting to hear the story or not. Definitely, I would say, since it is not just Netflix, it's like since, for example, Breaking Bad and Mad Men. I mean, so I would say from there began the era of the character-driven series or the story, right?
Right.
And why is that so? Because those characters, that kind of format allowed for the character to go furthest with his or her motivation without a moral sort of barometer attached to his or her actions. I think because of that change now, you see more kinds of characters. See, ultimately, story is character. It starts it starts and ends with that character's journey. So, because of these new platforms, we don't have to be sanitized. I'm talking even in terms of this journey of the story. So, I mean, I recently was working on a story where this character was doing something bad, and we had inserted a police person character in there, and that creates you already know कि वो police पकड़ने वाला है उसको, और वो जो चीज़ कर रहा है वो गलत कर रहा है. But that's not what stories are about today. The stories are about the guy going as far as he can with his journey. So these OTT platforms are allowing us to do more of that.
So in a way, they're actually showing you that there are other things that will work besides these 10 things you've been doing before. Is that the takeaway?
For that audience? See, the thing is, every time we need to consider the budget. So you can't make a big budget dark film.
Right.
The big budget dark film that did work was Dark Knight. Right. And that was a landmark. Like it was what do you call it? It was a outlier. Right. So you can make indie films. For example, Netflix recently released a slate of their films. Most of those films are films that would not be easily made in Bollywood, in the Hindi film industry.
Got it. On that note, we'll take a quick break and come back and speak to Nishant more about the process of how a film gets made.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on IVM Podcast. If you aren't following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On Instagram, we've been doing an interesting thing recently. What we're trying to do is whenever a listener is listening, they take a screenshot of what they're listening to, they make a comment, and they tag us on it. And we're reposting that on all of our stories. So, I mean, like, if you want to get on our feed, then please do tag us. And otherwise, if you want to see what other people are listening, then go and check out the Instagram account and you can take a look at that. On The Seen and the Unseen, Amit Verma talks to writer Gyan Prakash about his new book about Indira Gandhi and the emergency. On the Prakati Podcast, we have a 2-episode special that demystifies the ongoing economic conflict between the US and China. Last week, we launched a brand new Hindi podcast called Cinemaya. It's hosted by Swati Bakshi, and our first guest is Nandita Das. She discusses her journey as a woman filmmaker in a male-dominated industry. On Varta Lab, Naveen and Akash talk to comedian Nivedita Prakasam and remember their favorite heckling stories. On our Kannada podcast, Thale Arate, the hosts discuss how the Kannada language and culture is faring on the far side of the world. On Paisa Vaisa, CEO of Edelweiss Asset Management, Radhika Gupta joins Anupam to discuss asset allocation and its importance. And with that, let's continue on with your show.
So you're saying that's what is changed now. At the advent of all of this, you have multiple other genres now being made.
Yeah, there are more films that can be made now for better budgets. As in, so you can make those films at a certain budget and you know, okay, itna paisa banne wala hai. So we as a lot of writers who come to us, most writers have like dark films. Okay. So there are very few writers who now...
This is, you're talking Hindi or across languages?
Hindi. I've worked in Tamil. Tamil, most writers really enjoy titillating the audience and making the audience happy and entertained. So they love audience-type masala films.
Right.
The Hindi audience, because of whatever happened in the last 15 years, they a lot of the young writers want to write a thriller or a murder mystery or some sort of dark.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that. More writers are coming to you with dark.
Most of
films.
the most of the screenplays are dark.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, unless we commission them. So in a development studio, we come up with ideas that are more sort of wider audience.
So tell me, since you're at a vantage point in a studio, right? How and why does a film get made? Like, where does it start? It starts with a script that is mailed to you.
Honest answer is, why does a film get made is inexplicable. That is the honest answer. Because there are too many factors that have to be considered for a film to be greenlit. Okay, development studios come up with ideas on their own and hire writers who will write, say, a 40-page story of that idea, and then it is shopped to directors. Sometimes screenplays come with directors attached. All of that.
What percentage of what do you get? I mean, presently, you're working in a studio that mainly makes Hindi films, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, what percentage of the films you get, scripts you get, come with a director attached, roughly?
Percentage? No. ऐसा तो नहीं सोच सकते, because basically the mandate is to make only if the film is good. So I would say once a month we'll get a script with a director attached to it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, with say a leading director.
So like a known director, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but a film will not get made without an actor. So that's the key part of the process as far as any film is concerned. Unless you have an actor and actor's dates, your film is a no-go. So it languishes there for a long time until. So today I read a fabulous script. Like, I was blown away by the screenplay that I read today, which has
Was it
been...
dark?
No, it's not a dark film. It's a good, inspirational rooted Indian film, which had an actor attached to it last year. For whatever inexplicable reason, didn't work out. So it's a lot of things that matter here. Actor's date, date, then actor's last release, director's last release, because it takes so long. The timeline it takes to get something greenlit is so long that anything can happen in between. Governments can change. That can totally screw up things.
But the main filter in your world is someone like you who's in a studio liking a script or it emotionally
someone like
affecting
me
you.
plus 5 other people around me. Like I have to still pitch it to my team. So whatever screenplay I read today was really exciting. Now everybody else in my team also has to feel as excited, and then the whole momentum, the engines start moving, all that. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot for something to get made.
So what, do you guys have like a typical editorial kind of a meeting that happens in a newspaper? You sit down together and saying, what interesting scripts have you read this week, sort of a session?
Sort of. So what we do is every 2 to 3 weeks we talk to we have a creative team, and the creative team has we have a decision making team. So we present, say, 5 stories or 5 screenplays every 2 to 3 weeks, and then it's swimming in the air, chalta rehta, ghumta rehta. And then sometime you get a phone call saying, actors on, these are the dates, let's start moving. So it takes that is pretty random. That part of it is pretty random. But we have a process. But the process is not It is pretty random, I would say. At the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometime back, you were saying that the last 5-6 years something has changed. Right? My take on this is a film like Andhadhun. If it was made,
Superb film.
Great film, isn't it? Yeah. If that film could have easily been made at any point in time in Malayalam over the last 30-40 years.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And for that matter, Gangs of Wasseypur, when that happened, a film of that texture happened. It was not very surprising for someone in the South who's already seen a film like Pudupete.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of and the other trend that I've seen is I think at some point in the late or rather early 2000s is when South India woke up to the fact that you don't have to be the conventionally handsome or conventionally beautiful person
really? Was it
to
that
be
late?
the protagonist. Right? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a film.
About Setu movies like that.
But Setu also, he was very handsome for half the film, no?
Okay.
To me, probably that started with, say, a Subramaniapuram in Tamil, at
Later,
least, right? Where you so full grown beard, you're not exactly wearing nicely tailored clothes, etc. But that didn't matter because the protagonist was so strong, right? The story was so strong, right? So to me, I feel that somewhere along the line, I'm sure this was happening in other languages beyond Tamil as well, right? So I think somewhere in the line, Bollywood sort of understands this, recognizes this, and sees that, okay, this can also happen this way, sort of this, right? So how much today, when I see the films around me today, the films that I started mentioning at the beginning of the episode, the Stree, the Andhadhun, etc., a lot of it seem to be fairly new. I don't think a film like this could have been made 10 years back, right? So how much of this is a South Indian influence in the industry?
How is South Indian influence? That's a very good question. No, to be honest, there are a lot of people in the Hindi film industry who secretly like South Indian films. Okay.
I remember Gangs of Wasseypur actually opens with Anurag paying tribute to the Madurai Triumvirate.
Yes. Yeah, so see, South Indian films have always been liked, but they've been liked for its kitsch for a long, long time. We must remember that a lot of the technicians in the Hindi film industry are South Indian. Almost 100% of the sound recorders are South Indian. Okay, I mean, I know I'm wrong about that, but still, right? A lot of the DPs are 100% of the sound recorders are Malayali. Okay, actually. So
wow.
yeah, almost. So fact is that most of the people in the film industry are aware of these movies. They see them they see them as an exotic sort of thing. So hey. But I would say that in the last 10-15 years, starting with Anurag, a lot of writing work has been influenced. A lot of writers are coming from the South. There is definitely, if you look at the screenwriting pattern in Tamil or Malayalam, it's very different from how it is in Hindi. So to me, Andhadhun was Hindi cinema's first Malayalam film. Okay. The way the story is structured, the way the character.
But why do you say that? You take the 80s, the alternative cinema movement. A lot of the Shyam Benegal, Govind Nihalani was also fairly different from the main menu at that time, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're necessarily like Malayalam films, but they were also fairly. The Malayalam films at that time were also talking about the same things, isn't it?
See, Shyam Benegal calls the mainstream Hindi film as a traditional Indian film. Okay, which means basically that whole song and dance structure, the whole thing which is inspired by the Natya Shastra, that's your Hindi film, which is Diwar, which is Devdas, the new Devdas, which is also Padmavati, whatever, right? All of those films didn't have songs. They had stronger reliance on character and frame and all of that. So the aesthetic of how the camera gazed at the characters was not heroic. It was more realistic and all of that. I don't mean that. So in Malayalam mainstream or in Tamil mainstream, Malayalam, because I'm familiar with it more, I can say it was inspired, say, by European. It's inspired by European novels. Okay, so it's all character. It's all character. Film like Andhadhun. And if you look at the other films of Sriram Raghavan, they're all about character. So the maza of how the story, how the plot changes, the plot always changes because of the character. So all of that thinking is fairly new to a Hindi film audience. The Hindi film audience is seeing a film for entertainment, but here we know that even this can be entertainment.
Have you seen the short film?
The original short film? No, I'm not.
So I saw it. It's an extraordinary experience to watch it after this film.
Okay.
I think we are now at a stage where there's no spoiler, right? The film is coming.
You can say no.
So the main plot point where the murder happens, right? Which is a 5-minute scene in a 2-hour film, which is Andhadhun.
In the main film,
That is the only plot point of the short film. The short film is all about that scene.
Okay.
Right, where there's a blind pianist. He's a piano tuner is the name of the film. So he's playing, and while he's tuning and in his playing, he realizes...
That film is made by Sriram Raghavan?
No, that's the French film.
Okay.
French or Italian, I forget. Right? So he's playing, and then he sees a dead body, and then he realizes that the spouse has killed the person. Right? I'm really, really sorry to the audience if you haven't seen Andhadhun yet. Right? What I loved about it is, unlike other, inspired creations in Bollywood. Right? See, usually it's an entire film, right? Or is an entire script, or is an entire concept.
Right.
Here, 95% of Andhadhun is an original attempt.
In comparison to the short film.
In comparison to the short film. Right? But of course, he was also gracious enough to call it out, even though it was only like 5%. Right? So that was amazing. So you feel Andhadhun is a Malayalam film in Bollywood?
Yeah, man. Yeah. All the films of the 80s and 90s in Malayalam, which I have seen, I have actually seen very little of Hindi films in the 80s and 90s. They had this melancholy, this wry wit, to the characters, which it was a self where the character is introspective. See, in the mainstream Hindi film, the character doesn't think about himself. He's thinking about outside, society ke baare mein, maa ke baare mein. He's thinking about all of those things.
Right.
He doesn't think about himself. He doesn't think of himself self-deprecatingly. In the Malayalam film, the characters are always making fun of themselves first. I found that in Ayushman's character in Andhadhun. He's like a Woody Allen-esque kind of thing happening to him, which is rare for Hindi films, man. ऐसा होता नहीं है.
But it's by extension, are there Bollywood films in Malayalam?
Bollywood films in Malayalam. Yeah.
I'm talking about like the
Attempted
neo Bollywood.
Yeah. Neo Shadi Wala to nahi hai. Shadi Wala, they tried it's there, elements of that are there. People like it also. But it's not what it's not enduring. It's not the same thing. Because I think the Malayali film industry in general is also quite has this pride thing, which they will not borrow like that. They'll rather borrow from Europe rather than from Bollywood.
Yeah, I really like this thing you mentioned, which is the zeitgeist in your head. So basically, what I've understood from this entire conversation is it was and it will remain intuitive. And it'll always be an emotional call.
It should be, is what I'm also asserting.
Though I completely disagree. I mean, that's like just saying I have access to 10,000 things which can make something better, but I choose not to because I'm a purist. Right? That seems
absurd.
Not absurd. It just seems adamant.
No, I think it's the wrong approach. I think it is. Using data is a wrong approach. Films are works of art, right? At the end of it, however crappy it is and however good it is, it's a work of art. It is expensive. That is one reason which definitely is a good reason for taking the approach that you're saying. But now it is less expensive. Also, let me also say that it's not. I mean, a film like Badai Ho, it is not an expensive film, and it did really, really well. It did well without any data. It is a film that started off as an idea in somebody's head, and it was rigorously worked upon by the screenplay writers into an entertaining, emotional 2-hour journey. It was executed by the director to the T. Whatever, I won't use the word compromise, but whatever decisions were made during the course of the filmmaking were towards the betterment of that story. And at the end of it, it worked. Now, I would even say the premise of the film, which is what if your parents get pregnant? What if your parents are having sex? Actually, that's actually the premise of the film, because the film is about being embarrassed about that kind of thing, right? That is not really the zeitgeist, right?
Yeah.
It's not the zeitgeist, but we know that families think about this. There are many families where there are instances of very young, late births and all of that stuff.
But this zeitgeist you're talking about, right? Empirically, if you have to take the film that has worked best in every decade, right? If you were to backtrack this and then see if this rule actually worked, would it be right? Would the most successful film of a decade reflect what the society is going through at that point?
100%.
Can you give me an example?
100%. So I can't. So I've thought about it a little bit before. So this is not. I won't be able to talk about a film, but at least I can talk about, say, an image or an icon, right?
Yeah.
So, say Raj Kapoor, starting in the late 40s, Awara, was India at that time. He was the India which has just become free and now doesn't know where he's going, and he's Awara. Then, next decade, Devanand, pickpocket. He's the Indian who suddenly realized that, oh, no, I'm not going to just be following things. I'm going to make a life for myself. Also contradicting that at that point was somebody like Dilip Kumar, who is Devdas, right? Then next decade, in India, which is going through its own sort of post-India-China war and all of that. It was a time where it was a turbulent time for India, so we needed escape. Then that's when we had Shami Kapoor in going Yahoo. Yeah. Then we had an India which became really angry with the system.
Right.
And that was the angry young man, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. Yeah. Then the angry young man of the system was there for a long time. Mashal was there. Arjun was there, right? Until we had a time when we wanted to escape that and go back to the old times. Young romantic love, the Amir Khan in Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak, Salman Khan in Maine Pyar Kiya. Then we had this India which...
You've got to talk about Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge.
Yeah, so I'm coming there. Yeah, so that's when we had the guy who went abroad.
Right.
The NRI brother who went abroad and was harking back to the old India. So that was Dilwale, Shah Rukh in Dilwale. Then we had the India which wanted to go back to Gandhi, and then we had Munna Bhai, right? And then we came back to this. Then we moved to this India which suddenly started recognizing the woman as the most sort of driving force behind our own life. So we had Queen, we had Neerja. So every sort of 5-6 years. When you recognize, when that film comes out, it touches everyone, man. It's there.
So tell me, if this was so clear in a filmmaker's mind, right, and some of the best filmmakers were at work making Thugs of Hindustan, right? So what part of the zeitgeist is that reflecting, and why does that become one of the most expensive films of the year?
Why it's
expensive? So when you're making that investment, are you not asking yourself the same question, saying, okay, this is definitely not, is this what the audience is wanting right now?
Well, everyone is not always thinking of the same thing. We the same people who were involved in Thugs of Hindustan are also the same people who made Dilwale, and then they also made Dangal, which is also a critical film of our time. So yeah, so the thing is, decisions are emotional. Remember that it is not a thought out decision, and we are part of the zeitgeist. We also don't realize what is the zeitgeist until we say that truth to ourselves, right? So a film like Thugs of Hindustan is your example of like, oh no, this is what am I thinking?
But that's my whole point. Yeah. It's very easy to understand what the zeitgeist is. It's not a concealed secret, right? Today you have access to what people watch on YouTube. You have access to what people are talking about on Twitter. Right? I'll give an example. Right? We are, as you know, I work for a media agency. Right? So one of the things that we've been trying to find out is it's not just films are expensive products, and I stick by my statement that it is a product, and the company that manufactures it is a studio. So it's not just that it's a product that is expensive to make; it is also a product that's expensive to market. Right? So we were thinking there are 5 points in the life cycle of a film. Right? The film gets announced, then the cast is announced, and then at some point you are releasing the music of the film, and then at some point you're releasing the date, and then the trailer, so on and so forth. Right? So we were thinking that of all of these points trigger conversations on social media. Right? So if you were to measure the conversations for sentiment and associations at each of these cycles, can I give something actionable to the marketer? In this case, the marketer being the studio, right? And then we sort of devised this index, which is a movie buzz index, as we call it at Group M. And we found that this actually has a 70-80% success, right? If I were to compare all the indices that we created for films over the last 2-3 years and compare it to their eventual box office success, right? But this is one way. Google releases the zeitgeist of the top 10, 20 videos that worked in every part of the world, right? So you have all this data available. The zeitgeist need not be something that you pull out of, a producer's head.
A film is a work of art. Okay, so it is created like a painting. It's created like a song. It is created by inspiration.
Right.
Okay, it is about telling the truth to yourself. So. Observing society around you, observing the world around you, observing your context, what you are, is what is going to connect. Okay, it is not mathematics.
You're not letting it become mathematics.
So you're saying that it's possible to make a successful film, which is widely.
No, I'm saying it's possible to not make an extremely unsuccessful film by building it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That I agree with. But it is a collaborative process. I have heard stories from people in the industry who have gone on set on the first day of the shoot and realized that this is an absolute disaster and not been able to walk out of it.
That's tragic.
Okay, so and I've heard actors who say yes to projects saying that they are my friends, I have to say yes. Right? So it is not really an organized system.
Right. Even today, when it's largely led by large organizations, global organizations, it's still not a process.
Dude, they have no
industry.
say. I mean, they are not even able to get the actors on board. So if the top actors, right, like the A-listers, they are not beholden to the studios. They are totally going to do exactly what they want.
This is a very Indian thing, no? Is the same in Hollywood? Like for example, if a Robert Downey Jr. walks into a studio, do everybody stand up and say hello, sir?
I was recently reading something where now the studio system in Hollywood is beholden to the Marvel, Disney, that all of that franchise. So so it's no longer star driven as well.
Okay.
See, the point of view that that I see you making it is about this work of art being a way to make money. I mean, there are filmmakers. There are now do-it-yourself formulas where people are making smaller films, but still feature films, where they are selling it to people that they know and just making X plus Y amount of money for them to make the money back. Right. So all we need to do is make. All that creative people want to do is make their stuff.
Understood. It's also interesting. You talked about making money back. So, and in all of this, I don't think the producers of a film lose as much money and correct me if my understanding of the business of film is wrong, I don't think the producers lose as much money as the distributors do. Right?
Correct.
Because the producers create a hype around the film, and then the distributors buy into
in that
the
equation.
marketing.
In that equation, I know that you were leading into this. In that equation, the film is a product.
Right.
Yeah, where the product is on the table, and the distributor is looking at that work of art as a product,
Right.
and deciding whether he's going to bet money on this. So
Right.
it is gambling, man. At the end of it,
it's
that part of the process is gambling.
It's extraordinarily skewed, no? Like, for example, if I'm the manufacturer of Fair and Lovely, and if I know that I will always go to the bank smiling, and it's the shopkeeper who's stocked my product who's not going to, do the same thing, that'll be very unfair, dude.
Yeah, see, many of these smaller films right now are having to deal with that. A recent film, which is a really nice, beautiful film. Everybody who saw the film really liked it. It was released. So everybody was happy. Oh, wow, this film is going to be released and people are going to watch it. It had a 9 a.m. show at PVR City Mall. That was it. It was released, but no one cared to even watch it. So वैसा ही है, like a product, sabun. So you will keep the, I don't know how it works really, but basically you will keep the better selling product in front,
Right.
and the worst selling product behind. वही बात है. That's why a lot of people say, you released my film, but you didn't give my film a chance. So that is something I learned because I worked for many years on the creative side, and I just switched to the studio side, and that's why I'm still saying work of art. I may say product a few, maybe 10, 20 years down the line, but I'm still saying work of art. But I am now learning about all that, because creating a film is totally like the people who I met, who I encountered in the studio side, I don't even connect to them, man. When I was an editor before this, I never even met these guys, and the way they talk about films, अच्छा कौन सा actor है? अच्छा ये actor नहीं चलेगी नहीं. So then that's it, man. It's like right over there, you don't get the enthusiasm from them to market that film, and the film, I mean, you can see from their body language that they're not even, I mean, they representing the audience are not even interested in a film with, say, this actor. So even at that stage, we're on the losing side.
Right. Since you mentioned the shop shelf, I have a final question, which is on the theatre side of things, right? What you mentioned about the 9 a.m. show is typically the only slot where any other language films gets released in Delhi.
Right.
In fact, to a point where I think I had more access to regional Indian cinema when I was living outside India than I do when I'm living in Delhi.
I agree with you completely.
So I somehow have this feeling that the more we move from single screens to multi-screen,
we have moved entirely.
Yeah. Intuitively, you would think that access to films will become better, right? But I think in the last 5 years, my access to diverse cinema has come down drastically.
In the theatre,
I only have PVR to blame for this.
But that's in the theatre, no? I mean, you still have access to it on Netflix. I mean, I feel that I have access to a lot of regional cinema now on Netflix with subtitles.
No, but that has nothing to do with the explosion of multi-screens, no? I'm talking only about theatre.
You're saying multi-screens created, have destroyed that?
Have destroyed access, no? Which is very... Economically, if you... It's a marvel that you have more access points and less access.
Yeah. See, again, it comes down to individual decision only, no? So all those people who are there, it is an individual decision. I mean, and you need to have people who are inspired enough to be able to take that leap of faith. Now, for example, Sirat really worked, right, in Delhi. Even, I mean, Delhi was one of the big Marathi films, Sirat, with subtitles, and it was a big hit all over India.
So is there data in the distribution side of things? For example, is there enough data to prove that the more screens you release in,
there's data.
There's more money to be made?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. And the distribution side is completely driven by data.
Completely driven by data?
Yes.
Wow. Great.
And feel.
Great. So on that note, Nishant, I think we'll agree to disagree that, while my point being that data can make the movie creation and the watching experience better.
You can do that on your show.
I'm sure. You continue to believe and assure our audience that feels is what matters at the end of the day. Right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for your time and good luck with your projects.
Thank you.
So that was our show this week. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM podcast app or ivmpodcasts.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I am _Karthik. That's Karthik with an H on Twitter. And Filter _Koffee. That's coffee with a K on Instagram.
Do you have a night routine? Well, everyone has one. And the to-do list usually looks like this. Brush your teeth, set that alarm, get into your pajamas, and switch off those screens. But here's one more to add to that list. Tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast for a dose of positive action and tips on how to build powerful mindsets. Episodes out every Monday on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you tune into podcasts.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, a show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.